Leads, listings, leverage. I first got in the business in 2006 as my mom's buyer's agent. And after I was her buyer's agent for a couple of years, she said, you know what, Sarah, you should be put in charge. You should lead the team. So I did. I started leading the team. At the time, it was just me, her, and an assistant. And so we were small. Can you believe now we have over 300 amazing team family members that are part of the EmpowerHome family? The first thing I did when she put me in charge was I read a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. In that book, it talks about, it has this triangle. So imagine a triangle. On one side, it says leads. On another side, it says listings. And then below, it says leverage, okay? I learned from reading that book once a month for the first 12 months of leading the team that listings are king. Listings are a critical part of survival, especially right now with all that's going on in the industry, in the real estate industry. So how do you get listings? People ask me this all the time. Over $1 billion in sales volume last year, with 65% of that volume being listings. So how do we get listings? Okay, the first tip on how to get listings is you want to share the stories of sellers that you have recently served, or maybe your brokerage or team have served. Maybe you haven't served your first listing yet, but you want to share the story of a listing that has sold. As I started marketing in the beginning, started lead genning for business, the first thing I did was I started telling stories, and I was telling stories a lot about buyers that I had served, because I had served a lot of buyers. Well, of course, I started getting referrals of what? Buyers. But then when I started telling stories about sellers, talking about how sellers need me, talking about how I was able to serve a seller, both my mom's experience, both the office's experience, I was telling about how we were serving sellers. Guess what happened? I started getting referrals from all those that know me on listings. Before, they saw me as a buyer's agent. They saw me in one box. And then as I started telling stories of us serving sellers, I started getting more sellers to serve. So that's tip number one, share stories of sellers that you have served. Tip number two, one of the biggest mistakes that I made was not putting myself in the shoes of the sellers. And so tip number two is, what problems do today's sellers have that you can solve? It is so critical to always be putting ourselves in the shoes of the consumer, the shoes of those that we serve. So what problems do they have? What problems can you solve? Get out there and start thinking about problems that they have. I started interviewing, I started posting, I went to a conference where they had a panel of today's sellers asking them what the problems were. Right now, today, I take 3 to 4 hours a week. I eliminate distractions, and I put myself in the shoes of today's sellers. Once you know what problem they have because you're thinking like them, you're obsessing over them, you then create a program that they can use to solve their problem. You want to be different. Steve Jobs said it best. It's not about being better, it's about being different. So how can you create a program that's unique to the problem that sellers have, that's unique in the market, where sellers will raise their hands saying, I want to work with you? The third tip is you want to learn to close and ask for the business. It's a competitive business taking listings. If you want signs in the ground, okay, you got to learn to compete. It's game face time, okay? And so to do that, you want to learn to close and ask for the business. Learn to earn the business, okay? I know that it's stressful asking for the business. I know it's stressful to include all of the fees and to explain all of those things to them. But if you have confidence in what to say, how to say it, when to say it, when you sit down, when you get that seller that called you, when you get that seller that was referred to you, you can then ask for the business and earn the business. Another tip, and one that I, of course, am highly biased to, and I don't apologize about that because I'm passionate about serving a lot of sellers at a high level, is join a team that has an overflow of listing appointments, okay? There are many teams, not as many as I would like, okay? Although it's good because it helps us obviously serve more. But join a team that has an overflow of listing appointments. Join a team that has a lot of signs in the ground. Join a team that specializes in serving sellers at a high level. If you want to really serve sellers at a high level, join a team that takes away all of the things off your plate to where you don't have to do them. You don't have to lead gen for sellers. You don't have to tell a lot of stories about serving sellers. You don't have to think of a problem, create a program. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do the service operations of even servicing the seller. You get to go meet with sellers at their kitchen table, listen to the problems that they have, match them to a program that's already been developed and created for you, and then close for the business. All while having a leader, a coach, a mentor that's teaching you what to say and when to say it. And so you can fast track and get more signs in the ground, be able to serve more sellers with that last tip. I'm passionate about taking market share. I'm passionate about our industry. I'm passionate about serving sellers. And the reason I'm passionate about it is because a homeowner's home is typically their largest asset. And I believe that agents that specialize in helping sellers get the most money for their largest asset truly change and impact their communities. And so I continue to make that the focus of EmpowerHome. And so hopefully you got something out of today. Hopefully you got some tips that you can apply. Let's get out there. Let's take market share. Let's keep changing the communities one family at a time. Thanks for joining me. As always, big, big hugs. Bye, guys.